Not that it's your business. My girlfriend's in Paris. And I got her into trouble with some bad people.
I've always known you're a special guy. And I'm lucky you're my special guy. I love you, Lucas.
Let's talk about what's been happening with Spider-Man. So at this point, we are all aware that the entertainment industry just as a whole has been completely taken over by activist lunatics who are masquerading as creators and artists. And on this channel, we usually discuss how this relates to film and TV, but the truth is this is just as big of a problem, if not a bigger problem, in media like comic books and video games. Case in point, as an IP that exists not only in films, but also in comic books and video games, Spider-Man, sadly, has fallen prey to these woke zombies. And I guess one of the biggest red flags for fans of Spider-Man was the replacement of Peter Parker with Miles Morales. And I do obviously want to say that as someone who is biracial and partly non-white herself, a character simply being mixed race or not white is not in and of itself a political statement or anything like that, unless of course the creators of the character explicitly state that it is, which is exactly what happened here. As Radar Online reports, Marvel Comics editor-in-chief Axel Alonso said Miles Morales, the half-black, half-Hispanic heir apparent to the late Peter Parker, was partially inspired by President Barack Obama. The obvious question was, when you have an iconic figure of this importance die, who do you replace him with? We've got a president right now of mixed ethnicity, so why not one of the biggest superheroes in the world? Alonso said he and the powers that be at Marvel had been talking about this for a while, noting the first discussion of a biracial replacement for Peter Parker's character took place before the president was elected in November 2008. The artist who created Morales, Sarah Pichelli, said the new character's multicultural background could lead to more revelations in the future, including Spidey's sexuality. Maybe sooner or later, a black or gay or both hero will be considered something absolutely normal. You know, it's funny, since Miles Morales became a thing, I have seen fans of the comics complain that, wait a second, you guys are trying to diversity wash Spider-Man. Why are you doing that? To which people who are in favor of this diversity washing have said, no, we're not diversity washing anything. He just happens to be black and Hispanic. Why are you such a racist? And it's like, what are you talking about? The people in charge are actually going on record and saying this was done specifically for political, ideological purposes. Can we just take a second to appreciate the amount of gaslighting going on where these people say, yes, we are doing this because we are trying to influence social perceptions, but also simultaneously, if you point that out and don't like it, we are going to call you a bigot. And now we have a lot more to talk about with the wokeness infecting the Spider-Man franchise, but first I do want to say thank you to today's sponsor, Beam. Did you know that poor sleep can cause a whole range of health issues, including but not limited to weight gain, mood issues, poor mental health, and even lower productivity? And trust me, as someone who has a toddler, poor sleep is something that I'm all too familiar with, and I know firsthand how much it can just throw your entire day off. But thankfully there is help out there available. Introducing Beam Dream. You know, we've been raving about Beam's Dream Cocoa Powder, their healthy hot cocoa for sleep. Well, today my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their best-selling healthy hot cocoa for sleep with absolutely no added sugar. It's now available in delicious flavors like sea salt caramel, cinnamon cocoa, and chocolate peanut butter. Better sleep has never tasted better. And you see, Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, melatonin, and nano CBD to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. A recent clinical study actually revealed Dream helped 93% of users wake up feeling more refreshed, and 93% reported that Dream helped them get a more restful night's sleep. Just mix Beam Dream into hot water or milk, stir or froth, and enjoy before bedtime. And I love how Beam Dream has actually become a daily part of my nighttime routine. It tastes good, it's super quick to whip up, and it helps me get a better sleep, so really what's not to like? If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time, so act fast when you go to shopbeam.com/Lauren and use the code Lauren at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Lauren and use the code Lauren for up to 40% off. All the information will be down below in the description, and a big thank you to Beam for sponsoring this video. Unfortunately, yet predictably, wokeness in the creation of Miles Morales as a character has also led to wokeness in Miles Morales games and comics. The Miles Morales video game that came out in 2020 was filled with just outright political propaganda. For example, it was reported that Insomniac Games' new title takes current events into account in an unambiguous way, paying tribute to the Black Lives Matter movement with a massive in-game mural that unlocks after you complete a line of side quests. And when you knock out all the quests, you receive the Uptown Pride suit, which is black and yellow, the colors associated with Black Lives Matter. It's not just racial politics that's included here, because of course we need to be intersectional. As you saw at the beginning of this video, one of these side quests in the Miles Morales Spider-Man game actually involves helping a classmate, a male classmate, propose to another male classmate. You're just a long ways away from when Spider-Man used to be about like delivering pizzas and stuff. But all right, that brings us to Marvel's Spider-Man 2, a game that was released less than a week ago. Now this game does feature Peter Parker as Spider-Man. It has Spider-Men, so it's Miles and Peter Parker. But as a fan, if you were hoping that Peter Parker being part of the game would mean less activism, or perhaps being more loyal to the original source material, which used to be about superheroes and not so much social justice, unfortunately, you would be very mistaken. Because as we saw in that earlier clip, not only do we have lesbian Black Cat—
My girlfriend's in Paris, and I got her into trouble with some bad people.
but it seems like the creators of this game are so committed to their gender ideology that they are willing to completely butcher the Spanish language in order to avoid offending non-binary people. And I'm not even kidding. We have this article from Niche Gamer. Social media's learned the alleged Spanish version of Marvel Spider-Man 2 alters the Spanish language to be inclusive and to the point of it being grammatically incorrect. One Twitter user shared a video of the alleged Spanish version of the game and started to break down why it makes no sense. And we have this post by user Manga Lawyer, which reads, "Here is something interesting for Latinos. Spider-Man 2 has inclusive language. For those English speakers, this would be like spreading Latinx all over the game." And there's also this clip of gameplay included.
Primero quiero que conozcas a la doctora Young, una importante entomóloga. ¿Sabes qué es la entomología?
Sí.
La doctora Young realiza una investigación genial con abejas.
Now, as you can hear in that clip, the character says Doctore Young, which is anyone who's ever taken a semester of Spanish class, like yours truly will know, is not really a thing. But here, as someone on Twitter explains better than I can, in Spanish there's only masculine and feminine, doctor or
你还没有买洗碗机吗？很好，因为 LG 来了。Trusty
doctora, un or una. So concerning the sentence featured in the game, doctor Young, entomologo or entomologa. But essentially what they seem to be doing in the game, if this is indeed a real clip, is they are trying to make the Spanish language gender neutral, which it is just not. The creators of this game are willing to twist and butcher the Spanish language in order to cater to modern sensibilities. And the criticisms of Spider-Man 2, despite the game really only being just released, don't end there. When it comes to the character of Mary Jane, who is in this game, some people are alleging that the developers did the thing where they intentionally try to make female characters less attractive because, I mean, let's face it, feminists get triggered by attractive women in video games for some reason. Like, that's an entire subset of feminist activists in and of itself, just being mad at attractive women in video games. But yeah, for reference, here we can see what Mary Jane looked like in the 2018 Spider-Man game versus what she looks like in the 2023 Spider-Man game. Now, I'm not trying to come off as judgmental, but, you know, she's a video game character, so I feel like it's okay, I can do that. Sis is looking a little worse for wear, to put it mildly. Now, on their part, though, the studio that makes the game have denied that they've, like, uggoed her down. According to Gamerant, quote, "A senior official at Insomniac Games has denied claims that the developer changed Mary Jane's face in Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Insomniac Games community director James Stevenson dismissed the notion in response to 3 such fan claims on Twitter shortly after the story trailer went live, explaining that Mary Jane has the same face model and voice actress as in the previous 2 games. Any claims to the contrary should hence be chalked up to the developer's improved face scanning tech or MJ's new haircut. Sure, Gan. I mean, we also have stills from the game like this one that have kind of gone viral, showing that, yeah, it kind of does look like Mary Jane just isn't as cute as she used to be. And I mean, when you look at the studio and people behind this game, Insomniac Games, really none of these things are surprising. I mean, just check out this photo. This is basically POV, you're about to be lectured on microaggressions. I mean, this is also the same studio that actually released a statement in honor of National Coming Out Day, which is apparently a thing, which said, "As we honor National Coming Out Day, Insomniac Games aspires to inspire our players through gameplay. We seek to tell stories that reflect our players' humanity equality. Therefore, we stand united with the global LGBTQIA+ community to secure equal rights for everyone. We are donating to Outright International to support this cause. You can join us by donating here. Nothing is sacred anymore. Activists are running everything, and quality and story are nowhere near important as things like diversity and representation. That's basically all I have to say for now, though, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time. She's not going to be safe with the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
So at this point, a lot of people, yours truly included, have discussed how Rachel Zegler's promotion of her upcoming Snow White film has been in some ways so toxic, it could actually end up costing Disney millions of dollars at the box office through people just not choosing to see that film because they don't want to support her. However, what we haven't talked about, at least not on this channel, is the fact that Rachel Zegler's entire persona could be so toxic that it ends up not only affecting Snow White, which isn't even going to be released until next year, but actually her other upcoming project as well, a sequel to the Hunger Games franchise, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Yeah, that movie hasn't really been getting that much attention, at least not yet, but it is due to be released next month. But basically that film, which is based on a book that for once I have actually read, it tells the story of President Snow, who serves as the main villain of the Hunger Games franchise, when he was a teenager, or it looks like they maybe aged him up for this film, so he's more of a young adult, I would say. And in this film, Rachel Zegler plays the character of Lucy Gray, who serves as young President Snow's love interest. She is from District 12, and she is a tribute in the proto version of the Hunger Games before it got all fancy and technological. And I mean, I'm gonna be doing an entire video dedicated to the movie when it comes out, but essentially it's like a star-crossed lovers thing. Young President Snow is from the Capitol and her mentor, but Lucy Gray is from the districts, and she's probably gonna die, but they like each other and stuff. If you ask me, it's really not the most interesting premise, and it wasn't even a great book, so I imagine it's not gonna be a great movie. But in any case, the film hasn't even been released yet, and already things are looking pretty bleak towards box office prediction. You guys know the drill as bounding into comics reports. The upcoming prequel film, The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is predicted to have the franchise's worst opening weekend. Box Office Pro recently shared their long-range predictions for the Rachel Zegler film, predicting the film will gross between 35 to 45 million in its domestic opening weekend. The outlet also predicted that the film would only gross between 90 million and 142 million in its entire run at the domestic box office. And don't get me wrong, a prediction of around $40 million made opening weekend for the domestic box office, I mean, that certainly is a lot of money. In some ways, it's more money than I could ever make with a movie in a single weekend. However, it's important to note that for context, the previous worst opening weekend in the Hunger Games franchise was 2015's The Hunger Games: Mockingjay Part 2. The film grossed a total of 100 million in its opening weekend, and it went on to earn $280 million in its domestic run. So that is a huge drop. If previously the worst performing opening weekend of the franchise still brought in $100 million, but this film is now optimistically only predicted to bring in $45 million. That is a huge difference. And if I'm Lionsgate and I'm spending money to make this movie because I'm thinking, oh, well, people love the Hunger Games, this is money guaranteed, and I see those numbers, I'm probably gonna be sweating. And I guess one of the questions that I'm sure at least some studio execs are going to be wondering is how much of this is due to the negative press that their lead actress, Rachel Zegler, has been receiving over the past few months. And now it's true that all those clips of Rachel Zegler that have gone viral of her being obnoxious in promotional interviews, none of them have been promotional interviews for this specific movie. They've all been for Snow White, not for the Hunger Games. But still, I think the overall impression that a lot of people are taking from those clips isn't just, oh, this new Snow White movie is gonna be super woke and bad. I think it's also, oh, Rachel Zegler seems pretty annoying. I don't think she's necessarily the type of actress that I would like to support. And now I'm not sure exactly how much the negative press surrounding her specifically could be contributing to the poor predictions for the box office, but I can at least, I think, say that they're definitely not helping things. And also for context, I would like to point out, as many others have done as well, that Rachel Zegler has actually never been in a movie that made money. So far, the only titles that she has out are West Side Story, which, yes, lost money, and Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which once more lost money. And it's kind of interesting because despite the fact that she doesn't really have this long acting history to draw from, she has still gotten really high-profile roles in like A-list films. I feel like she's one of those actors that for some reason Hollywood is keen on shoving down our throats, or maybe it's just the casting directors, like they hear that, oh, she's been cast in West Side Story, so then, hey, we should probably also cast her in this DC film. And then the people at Lionsgate also see that, hang on, she's worked with Steven Spielberg and DC, and we should definitely put her in our Hunger Games prequel. And so all of a sudden you're seeing this person's face everywhere, even though you have no idea who they are. I feel like at one point that's exactly what happened with Taylor Kitsch and with Amy Schumer. Hollywood was just so keen to try to astroturf these people into being beloved celebrities and stars. But it's like, no, you can't just make someone successful through sheer force of will, or you can maybe for a little bit, but it's only gonna last so long. And I want to be careful here because I certainly don't want to be seen as advocating anything resembling cancel culture. Like, even if I find Rachel Zegler annoying and obnoxious and I think she seems really entitled, that still doesn't mean that I think she should never work in Hollywood again. I don't think that would be fair for her, especially since, as far as I could tell, she's not a terrible actress or anything. I don't think she's amazing, but she's certainly not the worst I've seen. I'm more just bringing this up though because I think studios need to be realistic. If someone is going to be demanding a high salary, which it seems like Rachel Zegler is exactly the type to do that, they should simultaneously be able to bring in a lot of money. But if that doesn't happen, perhaps because they've pissed off a sizable percentage of the audience, then maybe it just doesn't make financial sense to work with them anymore. And actually, on that note, previously Zegler was announced to be starring in Paddington 3, you know, those movies about like the little bear stuffed animal. Variety has now confirmed though that, quote, Rachel Zegler was supposed to join the film but was ultimately unable to carry out the role due to the SAG-AFTRA strike. Now obviously it is true that the ongoing strike means that a lot of actors and writers who had previous commitments aren't going to be able to fulfill those. However, before it was confirmed that she wouldn't end up being in the movie because of the strike, there were still murmurs that it wasn't going to happen anyway. So potentially, and this is just my speculation here, I want to make it clear, is it the case that the strike just happened to be a happy coincidence to allow Zegler to bow out of the film while still saving face? That also ensured the film, when it gets released, would be able to sidestep any negative connotation for being associated with Zegler? I don't know. I would love to hear what you guys think. But back to the Hunger Games prequel. Look, I've checked online trying to find out what the film's budget is, and so far I've seen nothing but speculation based off the previous Hunger Games films. Now, the first Hunger Games movie ended up costing around $80 million, but by the end of the franchise, when the Hunger Games had essentially become this big blockbuster thing, the final film cost $130 million. So based off those numbers, and this is purely just speculation, I've seen people guess that The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is too long of a title if you ask me, that it costs between $80 million to maybe $150 million to make, which is a very wide window. But if the low end of that estimate is correct, that the film cost $80 million to make, and again, having read the book for once, I think it's important to note that there is a lot less action going on in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Like, it definitely read like less of a action blockbuster movie, so I'm assuming it would be cheaper to make than The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. Even with the lower predicted opening weekend numbers, there is still a chance for this movie to be profitable. And also relevant to this entire conversation is the fact that, Rachel Zegler aside, YA dystopian movies aren't really a thing anymore, or they're definitely not as popular as they used to be. I remember that when Twilight first came out, for a while it was all about like YA romance involving some sort of mythical creature, whether that was a vampire, werewolf, most often a vampire though, and for a while it was angels. But basically after Twilight there were so many different films and series and books that tried to capitalize on that same success, and then eventually things shifted to YA dystopia, largely due to the Hunger Games. Aside from the Hunger Games, we also had Divergent, which ended very weirdly with just kind of a sputter failure of a movie. They never ended up making the final one. Then there was the Maze Runner series,